Nick Ferreira, welcome to the Boardroom podcast. It's good to see you. Roam Surfboards. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning. How are you? Happy belated birthday.
Oh, thank you, buddy. Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, good stuff. Hey, you and I went to see Peter Frampton and Jason Bonham's Led Zeppelin experience a few years ago. I don't even like maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what was the last concert you went to see, live music?
The last concert, I took my 12-year-old daughter to see the Jason Bonham experience at
Oh,
Humphreys.
you're kidding.
It was her first concert ever. She's like a full Led Zeppelin fan. She is just gnarly since she's been like 6. I just like pawned that all that music off on her, and it's so classic. She's just like everything Zeppelin, everything new wave, nothing new, anti Taylor Swift. She's like skater, jiu-jitsu girl, just classic, and into music.
That's cool. Well, that's great. Does she play an instrument?
She plays the ukulele. She can play Stairway to Heaven on her uke.
That's incredible. That's so great. Well, good
Yeah.
for her.
She does way more than me, I'll tell you that much, musically. I just
Where
listen to her.
does she get it from her mom? I mean, you're musically inclined. I know that because you go to music. You go see music. Where do you think she
Uh,
gets it?
she gets it. I think she's just like, she really wants to try new stuff. And she
Yeah.
like takes it from us. Like the wife is a ceramicist, so we have
Hmm.
a place here in Sereno Valley, and she's got her own. She got her kiln, and she teaches kids and classes and stuff like that. So she does the whole nine. She's been doing it for like 20 years. So she's got that artistic side, and then I just like to think that I'm the cool influence and give her all the good music. I'm like, oh, it's all trash. Just like here, just feed her like, she only can handle like when she was younger, she only can handle like one genre at a time and then like one band at a time. So I give her like Song Remains the Same, live version. I'm like, all right, and then there's another record. Check this one out. So it's cool. But
And what are some albums that you sort of that you hope that she takes on? Like, well, I'll give you an example. Like, so in my family, the one album that I'm like, hey, you got to listen to this, both sides, start to finish, preferably with earphones on. And that's Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. Do you have an album like that? Is it like
yeah,
Nirvana or something? Or
no, it's Zeppelin. Song Remains the Same live.
wow, all right, there you go.
The one, what is it, like 30-minute songs, and then she watches the whole movie like over and over again. And then
Okay.
and then the classic thing is she watches Billabong Pump for all the movie for all the music over, and we watch it together like every day for like the last like 10 years. It's classic.
Now I'm not familiar. What's some of the classic music on there? Is it
Oh,
all
there's like
good?
Concrete Blonde, there's like Altar Boys, there's just some rad 80s bands. The Agent
Yeah.
Orange, there's like, so she's all into that now. And she's into records. She doesn't have a CD player. She doesn't listen to MP3s or whatever. I don't know what they're called now.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got her a vintage record player, and she's all
Cool.
so
Right on. Look
that's
at
the
you.
problem.
You're a great dad. You're a great dad. You're a great influence musically.
I'm trying, Scott, trying to
Yeah,
keep up
man.
with you.
Good for you, brother. Hey, I was on your Instagram page, kind of doing a little bit of scanning research that I do, and I see this CTH fish, and it looks like a beautiful board. Tell me a little bit about the Roam Surfboards CTH fish that you've designed.
So that was, gosh, that thing was like 10 years ago. I started it. And that's like an evolution, I'm sure, with everybody else. It's like you design a board and then you kind of like want it's nowhere near the original. I'm sure everybody goes through that. But it was designed to have like the old outline, although it's not old, compared to if you look at a list, but an older outline with low rockers, but all modern bottom contours. So it's like, like some keels, and it's a keel fish, but some keels, they get tracky and really horizontally surfing, and especially if you get them, if you're doing a roundhouse and you get going back towards the whitewater, they tracky or they just feel flat and weird. And the way I've been doing mine is I give a lot of tail lift, just an absurd amount of concave through the belly and the tail, and which you don't have to change your style of surfing. Like I came up from a thruster upbringing, you know, contrary to where I grew up surfing, everything was twins and single fins, and thrusters were around, but it kind of wasn't the cool thing downstream. But I wanted to surf fishes like you would a thruster, and so that's kind of where that came from. And the CTH stands for close to home, which is relevant for I wanted to surf. It's a board for close to home, and so that board is that board. It's a rad board, and I plan on taking it to Peru. I'm going.
You're going to Peru.
Yeah,
That
me
is
and
so
Pat.
great.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
So
stoked.
I've already like just tweaked out like for the last week, just like 2 a.m, like freaking out, like just like tweaking out on what twin fins I'm gonna bring because it looks like a good
Well,
win.
it's funny because, our friend Pat, nobody knows that's listening to this, but he told me, he goes, yeah, Nick's going. And I go, Nick likes really good waves. Like Nick goes to blacks. Like it's Peru. I mean, look, I'm stoked on Chicama. It's going to be fun, but from what I understand, it's a twin fin wave. Like it's not what I expect Nick Ferreira to be surfing. I see you pulling into 8 foot, road peaks.
Yeah, well, I'm going to Tabarua in next month in May for 11 days. Not Tabarua, I'm staying on the mainland. I have a really good friend, met up with some really good people. I was there in August last year, and it's like this retreat, and they're building it up with the local family. And anyway, I'm going back over there in a month, and then I was going to go stay in Tabarua in September because I turned 50. So I'm freaking getting old, which is not, I mean, everything hurts in my body now. I still feel young. But so then Pat's like, oh, well, I'm going to go to Chile. And I'm like, well, let's go to Chile, dude. Like, when? He's like, well, it has to be next year. I'm like, oh, next year you're going to be so old, you're not going to be able to do anything. No, so long story short, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go with Pat. He's one of my oldest friends, as you know. Like I've known him since, geez, I must have been like 12 years old, surfing the cliffs. And that crew of guys, Woody, Geraldo, you guys know who you are, and those guys like reared me. And they were 20 years my elder, and they kind of held it down out there. So
Yeah.
I took it an opportunity to go out with Pat and then you guys, and
Yeah.
Wayne fins, and that's the kind of waves I grew up surfing anyway. So
Yeah, exactly. It's funny. You touched on a few things here. And one is where you grew up and you grew up downstream, as you mentioned, which is, let's just be clear, it's code for Sunset Cliffs. I said it, you didn't, don't worry.
uh,
Uh, San Diego has a deep and vibrant shaping history, especially down in that neck of the woods. I think of like John Hawley and of course Liss and George Gall and Marcio, quite frankly, many, many others. Is there one or two guys that kind of speak to you as inspiration or influential? Maybe somebody that doesn't even get enough credit or who doesn't even seek credit or but probably deserves it. Was there somebody like fill me in a little bit about that?
like you kind of touched on those, the hitters. I think George Gall's really. When I was in high school, a lot of my friends rode Georges. They were G stars back then, and before Plus One even existed. And Joe Virgilio and I used to surf a lot together before he shaped, and he was kind of like the fish master. He ripped on a fish, like airs and full snaps and blowing the fins out. But I always thought he was like super underground and underappreciated. And then, um, and then and believe it or not, we had a crew of guys um, that surfed really good. They were all competition surfers from down there, and like the NSSA days, and they were like at the top at the time, and we all rode Greg Sarges. It's funny.
Wow.
All of them were like rode for Greg, and I just got like hand me downs, or like I got in with Greg through there, and we get these like sick. My friend Chris Reed, if you're watching, he lives in SF now. He just ripped. He ended up becoming pro for a while. But like I grew up watching Menzie and Jake Jacobs and those guys. And Peter Benjamin used to make our boards, but he was pretty rad. But going back to Sarge is like, so we used to get like these small, like they didn't have groveler boards. It wasn't really a term, right?
Yeah.
And we get these like double bump, 6 channel grovelers with like a fin box in the middle, glass on sides, so you can like move the fin, middle fin forward and back, forward and back. And that's all we'd surf, dude. And like we'd surf the cliffs, and they worked great because they were small, wider, compact, but they were thrusters. And I was addicted to like that feeling of glide and float, but have the performance of a thruster. And I don't know, that's kind of my influence. And it's like whatever board I got from somebody else, I kind of carried that, wanted boards that felt like that. Like
Yeah.
performance, super performance, low rocker, but still had the glide to get you through flat sections and get in early, But yeah,
Yeah.
Greg was kind of an influence. And then, of course, George Gall, and then, like Stu started coming around, Kenton back in the day, and gosh, I've known him since I was a kid. But yeah, and then going forward, like later on, Marcio made a lot of my boards, and I had him make me these weird, same kind of boards, like wide. He's like, Nick, they're not performance. This is not what I meant to. I'm like, yes, but they'll work. Make the nose wide. He's like, the nose is 13. I'm like, no, 13 and a half. Like, but yeah, I mean, there's so many guys now. It's I don't know. It's cool. It's good for surfing. I feel like
I love Marcio. He's a great guy,
he's such a
and
rock star now. It's cool.
it's
Cool to see.
but he reminds me like there's shapers or certain guys. There's a guy up here too, like that even if you go Marcio, I want it like this thick. It's always going to be a little thinner than you wanted it. You know what I mean? Like he's making such bladey, high performance boards that there's no way he's going to spit out something that's 2 7/8. Even if you're like 2 7/8, please, 2 7/8.
Oh, it's 2 7/8 like that on the stringer. It's 2 7/8.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it was funny because he was making me some. I mean, you would never. He went through a period. He went into the SB10 and the first like the glider and the first disco. Like I was riding some of the first of those, and then I'd even like make them thicker and what the rail more round and they were some of the best boards I ever had, to tell you the truth. And then Chris Christensen made a bunch. My buddy rode for him too, and then so he made me one of the best double bump swalls I've ever had. And I think I rode that thing into the ground, and I wish I still had that. And then Larry
well,
Babel made me a sick board. Was my one? It was my very first surfboard I ever owned. It was,
really, Larry Mabel.
yep, it was a 4 channel. Same thing, 4 channel squash, um, glassed in side fins with the fin box in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
What year? So this was your first custom board. What year was that?
was like 1988,
Yeah.
88,
Yeah.
I think,
All right.
87. I don't know.
Well, you've mentioned some interesting characters. I'm surprised Greg Sarts doesn't strike me as a guy that's making boards for guys down at the cliffs. That's interesting, very interesting. And Marcio, of course, everyone loves. He's a wonderful guy and makes such great surfboards, right? I'm going to let you in on a little tip. You're the first one to hear this in a public announcement. But as you know, we do best in show, a board build off each year at the Boardroom show. And this year's best in show, and I'd love to get your comments on this, and please don't hold back because it's too late. It's happening regardless of
All
what you
right.
think. This year's category is the fish, but um, it comes it's kind of like the British Bake Off. Like you could say, hey, look, we'd like you to make strudel, but we need you to include these ingredients. Like we'd like pineapple strudel. And so
Right.
this year's board build off, the best in show, the category is fish, but I'm asking you guys, the board builders, Nick, to include two things. One is wood accents, And the second is meaningful symbology. So I'm asking
You're getting deep.
you to build, I want you to build me a fish with wooden accents and meaningful symbology. Um, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't even know where to begin with that, Scott, to be honest with you.
No, yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. You've never been a loss for words, Nick. Go for it.
Oh,
Uh,
dude, that's just like such a turn off.
let the arrows fly, my friend.
Like, I don't know, meaningful, symbolic. I mean, does the thing
Dude,
work?
I see meaningful symbology behind you in your logo. Are you kidding me? And I know you've got downstream symbology. You've probably
I
got
do. I don't know.
Portuguese symbology. You've got
Yeah,
symbology with your daughter. You've got meaningful symbology that you can put
yeah.
into this board.
Uh, shit. I think that so that's the thing. So it has to be wooden, meaningful, symbolic.
No, no, it doesn't have to be wooden. I'm asking you to include wood accents. That's up to you. I don't know what that means.
Yeah. So what do I think about it, or what is?
Well, you don't have to think anything right now. You need to chew on it for a bit. But let me ask you this more specifically. If somebody came to you and said, "Hey, make me a fish," what's the one design element that has to be included in that board for it to be considered a fish?
Has to have keel fins and a swallowtail that's like wider than 11.
Okay, that's interesting to me because I was told at some point by Bird, and I've asked Bird about this, and he, he's not gonna he's gonna say originally there was a number from pin to pin on the swallow. That number between the pins had to be a certain amount of inches, and I think it was 16 inches.
Mm-hmm.
And Bird's like, look, those were the first ones were knee boards. They were under 5 feet, and they had a 16-inch, be pin to pin. But Bird's the first one to say, well, but it's changing. Like fish means a lot of things to a lot of people, which is why I think it's a good choice for a category for the board build off. So you're saying keel fins. Keels are what makes a fish. If it doesn't have keels, it's not a fish. I like that. I'm into
Fin,
that.
right? It's like a twin fin. It's just like upright twins. I mean, you could put them in. I mean, the reason why I say over 11 because it's like nowadays I feel like everybody calls a fish like someone with a like. There's so many new surfers, and it's yeah, I guess it's good and COVID surfers, and it's like oh, killer fish, and well, it's just a shortboard with a swallowtail, or it's just a twin fin, upright twin with the swallowtail. I'm like, yeah, totally. But no, I mean, it's got to have keels if it's going to be anywhere near a fish, right? And I feel like it has to have a beak, and you have to give it like all that flair. I mean, I just do 11 because it's got to have some width in the tail, Otherwise,
Yeah.
I mean, now it's like the term is so broad, and I don't, like I said before, I don't really want to make boards that go straight. Like I do make boards that go straight and fast.
For
But
the
like
record, all boards should go straight.
all boards, but the thing is, all boards I feel like should be super fast. That's like my number one goal. Is like I can deal with them being like stiff. Just let me go fast, right? Because then I can turn, right? So it's like that's like my number one thing in every board I make. It's like it has to go like Mach 2. And
Yeah.
then it's like if it's stiff, that's fine because I can turn when I go fast. The lamest thing is I feel like with surfboards is, oh, it turns really good, but you're not making sections. It's like it's wiggly, it doesn't hold. It's like give me as much hold and drive, like the grip on the face. When you get that first pump, it's like, oh my gosh, this thing doesn't even have a top speed. And then I'll deal with the turning aspect of it. But there's some people, customers, that's not their bag, and maybe that's not their level, or that's just not the way they surf. So then it's like, okay, let's not make it so gnarly, the bottom contours, and
Yeah.
pull it out. But I try to get everybody on that level when they order a board. Let's open your mind to like as much speed as possible, and then and if it's really stiff, I always tell them I always make them shorter, so it's like your height, they're 2 inches shorter, even short
Yeah.
board. And I think that was the trend that was happening for years in the last 10, 15 years. It's like 2 inches shorter, but I feel like when I was growing up, we were getting boards from Sarge, and then it turned, Chris and George Gull. I was always getting boards like short, wide, like grovel things. They were shorter than us, and then when I started doing my own thing, I was like, these are the only boards I want to ride anyway. So I'm just doing it my way, you know.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a couple things. One is, first of all, I love the idea that you have a concept of what a fish should include, and I love the idea too that no one really knows these days. It's kind of changed. It's not a friggin', you know, 410 kneeboard.
Yeah.
And so, and what's really interesting about that is the 410 kneeboard, the board that Stevie rode that he borrowed from Jeff, uh, probably had keels, but the best list that I've ever, one of the greatest fishes I've ever owned that I got from Stevie had standard fins, marine ply, just standard twin fins glassed in. They weren't keels. And Stevie's kind of not a keel guy. I mean, if you look at
Yeah.
all of his fishes, they're so what I love about that is that it's open for interpretation. And that's why the fish is the category for the build off. And it's kind of like, look, you know, build an 810. I don't care. Just make it a quote unquote fish, whatever that means to you, whatever that means to you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and then, you know, it, okay, so I love what you're saying about speed. I think speed's crucial. Like, why wouldn't you give me a board that goes super fast? I'll manage the speed. You
Yeah.
know, I'll do my best. And if I have to, we'll circle back and I'll go, dude, you made a board that's too fast for me. And I've had one of those. Carl Ekstrom made me a board that was so friggin' fast. It was intense. And people were like, what do you ride? You know, point A to point B. It was the fastest thing ever. And of course, it had some pretty gnarly down rails, which I
Right.
loved, you know. Um, but so I just was riding a board in El Salvador that Todd McFarland made for me, and it has so much concave. And but the secret to this board is, not the secret, but one of the interesting aspects of it is that at the tail block, right at the tail, it's got tons and tons of concave. The concave continues
Right.
all the way through. Now that's a drawback on some regard in some for up here at the top, trying to get that banking turn at the top. But point A to point B, all of that concave through the entire tail is next level. And I know that's something that like I think of you and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna order a Roam and I want him to make it like Todd's. I want Nick to make it like Todd's, but let's just pull back to that concave right at the tail block, just maybe an inch. You know, let's just keep finding that happy space. How far back are you pulling your concaves through the
All
tail?
the way nose to tail. You know,
Radical. Give
it's
me
like
speed.
at 12, it's got like eighth inch. At right in the middle, it's like a quarter, 3/16. And then it goes like a lot of them go to like a triple and it equals like a 3/16. And then inside there's a double on some of them that are like almost 3/16. And it just goes all the way back to the tail. But how you get around, I get around a lot of that like right behind the back fin, the last 3 inches, I'll just go like flat. I'll like try to like put a little V in there so it kind of just breaks it up, or I'll just start giving a little bit of tail lift back there. But really, it's like some of the boards, like the Monkey Fist, I revisited. I made that board 8 years ago, and it was meant to be ride short. It has a down rail, flat deck, little beak, blah blah blah. And I rode it really short. I was really, and I was also early 40s or just turned 40. So I was like, I can ride like the tiniest boards in good surf. And the thing just went off. And then I went down a different path, I rode it to the ground, and it went like my mind with surfboards. It's like I'll make a model, tweak out on it, like literally every little thing. And I'm like, I make boards for how I want to surf a wave or a condition, right? I'm just so nerded out on it. It's like the ADD. It is my ADD. And then so like, and then I'll get in there, make it, works insane, and then I will not ride it because my mind is like freaking 3 miles down the road. You know what I mean? So basically, I brought this one model back to Monkey Fist, rode it. I made one last August before I went to Fiji. Didn't bring it though, and then I rode it all summer in like knee-high surf. We had a horrible summer. And I rode it, and lately I've just been surfing no crowds, the worst waves ever, but having the most fun with these designs. And like they're all speed, and I kind of reconfigured and went back and like the flat deck, massive amounts of concave. I made them my height, but like we were to what you were talking about is, yeah, it's really good from point A to point B and like connecting sections and floaters. And even you see a section coming at you, you can hit it as hard as you want. But as soon as the waves gets like, okay, you go to blacks, and whatever, everybody knows about blacks now post COVID. But high tide's fucking no secret.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, it's like head high, maybe a couple feet overhead, and it's kind of soft. It turns into like a rippable turn wave. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
almondy, and you got to do deep bottom turns. Well, that design doesn't really translate to fitting that wave. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's kind of not the board to bring. So I make other boards for that kind of surf. So, but recently what I did with the monkey fist is like, because it's a real wide outline. All my boards, I really like the aesthetic look of an older board, like from the 80s.
Hmm.
But let's just put new bottoms on it in different concaves and fin placements, of course, modern fin placements. But so I just changed that monkey fist up, and I decreased the concave in the tail. So like
Yeah.
basically, I just made it a double, not like a triple.
Right.
And then now the thing is freaking insane for hitting the lip, because before you'd have to go off the bottom and you were ready to just because you had to hit the lip, but you couldn't do like a last minute like hack because the board's so stiff. But you'd have a ton of speed you have to wipe off.
Yeah.
So now at the last minute, by just changing a few things, okay, now I'm not going to hit the lip. Now I have to do a carve, and now it allows me to do like this big lip line carve, and then it still has the drive, but it just doesn't have that extra squirt you need for those little, you know, chest high, waist high, tight runners that up north, like the beach breaks up north and like Camp Pendleton and down south
Yeah.
border and everywhere
Yeah.
in between.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, you've
Yeah.
got a ton of boards, and you've one of the things that you mentioned sparked a little interest in me, and that is when you travel, how many boards are you bringing? And is it difficult for you to determine which boards to bring?
Dude, I wish I could bring like coffins, but it cost me an arm and probably cost more than the trip itself, right?
Yeah.
It goes. I always, I'm always gonna have thrusters, but that being said, I brought four to Fiji, and only two I rode because I feel like that wave is so perfect. You don't need that big of a board unless it's massive.
Yeah.
And I ended up riding a Marlin Spike, like the one I made you years ago, like the
Uh-huh.
the twin plus trailer. It was like a 5.9, and I rode it like overhead restaurants. And
Yeah.
I had a 6.0 Chovy, which is like just a normal, my version of a shortboard, a little shorter, a little wider, single concave. But I caught a couple waves on that board, and I had a 6.2, a 6.6, all thrusters, but didn't even get wax on them. I ended up riding this little 5.9 every day because I was like,
Yeah.
you can handle anything. And it was thick enough to paddle, but, it wasn't massive.
That's the thing, right? I've found over the years that I just end up riding one board no matter how many I bring. So now I just bring one board.
Well, what if it gets ruined by the airlines?
Here's the thing. In Fiji, there's always boards laying around. Like if it doesn't show up, by the way, I don't know what you're bringing to Peru, but I'm probably going to be riding it.
Well, I've got like, it's so funny because I have like, these are all customers' boards. I haven't quite picked them up, but I was going to bring like that CTH fish, and then I have like a longer fish. It's like a lure. It's like between a fish and it's not a fish, but it's not a twin fin. It was really made for like, I wanted a board because like my fit, it's weird. Like, don't you feel like your preference for waves change as you grow and like so like there was a time I did rewind. So the last 10 years, like I really okay, the last 6 years, I was really bummed on surfing. I'm sure you heard it from Pat. I was like, fuck, so many people. And I had a bad knee injury and right before COVID, and the COVID, I was just dirty and whatever. And then the crowd after COVID. And I was really focused on my other business that really, pays the bills, and because I have to grow up, and everybody, you want to do your passion, but at the same time you have to put food on the table. But long story short, um, I just got this resurgence of like stoke, and I didn't care about how bad the waves were. And then it led me to where I am now again, where I'm just fired up on designing boards. I'm fired up on surfing every day. I'm waking up at 4 in the morning and doing my routine, and getting to the word and whatever, and just fired up and being the first one in the water. And you know, anyway, long story short, so I've been surfing the last year a lot of waves that are really tight, really hollow, and you just got to go point A to point B, and you can just get tight little barrels. But so I've made this. So I'm going to bring CTH fish. I'm bringing this one called the lure. It's not a fish. It's not a twin. It's like a stretched out.
It's a fish. Let's just call it a fish for the sake of best in show.
But you put twin upright twins in it, so it's like
Oh,
I don't want
so does Stevie.
to. Well, he's the guy, so what the hell do I know? But I don't want to be the one to call it a fish. So and it really was made for like a barrel board. It's like 5'7". It's because my fishes are 5'5". You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's like
Okay.
5'7", has a completely flat deck, down rail, retarded amount of concave.
Sounds fast.
Yeah, and it's like you can get all forward on the nose and get all styly and stroby, but but I think I'm gonna like. I've already designed it. It's actually gonna get cut today, and then I'm gonna have Bird do some crazy resin tints on it. But that one, so 5'5", 5'7", could be probably a 5'10", then have a 6'5" twin pin. I'm gonna bring. So
Okay. All right.
the 4 boards.
All right.
I'll
Cool.
bring one for you.
Oh, believe me, you just brought four for me. No. Hey, switching gears a little bit.
Yeah.
Stab and Sam McIntosh, his crew there, they do the stab in the dark and the electric acid surfboard test. What are your
Right.
thoughts on those surfboard and shaper centric pieces that Stab puts out?
I think they're insane. I think they're so cool. You know what I really like is well, through the boardroom show, and and this is why I think it's so cool. Through your boardroom show, and through the early days of Instagram and that kind of stuff, I met up with Matt Parker, and we did some stuff. I don't know. The last time I did the boardroom show was that almost 10 years ago?
Yeah,
Yeah, they
maybe.
had a thing at Culture Brewery, and Matt
Right, right,
was
right.
there, and yeah, you totally helped me out, got me a booth, blah blah blah, and we became friends, and we his boards and our boards are kind of like, whoa. He took off, he became a superstar, but our paths went two different ways. But
Nick, you're a superstar.
uh,
Just okay, let's just be clear.
well, that's debatable. I'll be underground. How's that?
All
Uh,
right.
I feel like it's the stab in the dark gave the electric surfboard test, or whatever you call it, gave guys like him a huge platform, and to really highlight those guys that would never probably get the recognition. I mean, let's be honest, the Matt Biolases, the Channel Islands, the Marcios, and Marcio I have the utmost respect for. He's took him a lifetime to be an overnight sensation, but we all knew from San Diego he was a rock star. But I mean, those guys are like that upper echelon. I mean, the high performance thruster is the gnarliest thing to make. I mean, so much so, like, I don't even want to go there. There's so many options. It's like, what?
It is a fascinating concept because, 2 days before I went to El Salvador, I just pulled this three fin out of my storage that I hadn't ridden in 2.5, 3 years. I hadn't ridden it in a long time. And I'm like, just kind of a 4 foot day out front here. Let's just see what happens. After the first wave that I caught, which wasn't a great wave, I just got that first initial turn and I went, I'm bringing this board. This is the board I'm bringing. It's the only board I'm bringing. And it was a three fin. And, most people that know me are like, okay, twins or twin fin or quad, you know, something that Wayne made me. But the three fin is such a wonderful surfboard. It really is. Like we're always, I guess as surfers we're going down these different paths trying to feel out these different things. But all it took was one little turn for me to go, this board's a no brainer.
Yeah,
And yeah. Three
Three
fin.
fins are the best. I'm still like, I still have a, I don't have a single fin mentality, Chandler. I have a three fin mentality. It's like that's the base for everything. Like I make twin fins that feel like three fins, and dude, I made single fins that feel like almost like three fins. Like you don't have to change the way you surf. Like you notice, like some people when they ride fishers or boards that are too small, their whole stance changes and they get all like weird and they can't really lay into a turn. And it's like, no, like why do I try to make the board where you stand, you still have a shortboard stance. Your foot is still on the tail. Your back foot's on the tail. Everything's the same, right?
Yeah.
And then you still leverage. You still hit the lip the same. You approach the whole wave the same, right? That's the
Yeah.
fun for me, or making like, I don't know, you want to call them alternative boards, like twin fins or fishes, or even
Yeah.
I've made some single fins that like I can do full like top turns, like push out the fin, the big old fin. It's pretty rad.
Yeah.
But it's all in like the curve in the bottom and the outline and like the little subtleties. I feel like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Yeah. It's an interesting thing, surfboard design in general. That regarding the stab thing, you mentioned, um, sort of like the heavy hitters, like Channel Islands, who I've had great surfboards from. That I have
yeah,
some right over here that I love, that I've taken to Fiji. I've had incredible boards from Matt. I've never got a bad surfboard from Matt Biolas. And not that there's any such thing as a bad surfboard. What I mean is a board that didn't fit, that fit my perspective or the way I surf. But the one thing that I think you touched on, which is super crucial, is Matt and album and how it helped him kind of rise, like the cream rises. And if I had any um, criticism, constructive criticism of what they do there, and I love what they do there, I would love it if somehow they got more of the Matt Parkers of the world, the guys that no one knows about. In other words, the Nick Ferreiras of the world into that fun competition that they produce. Do
yeah,
we really need to see more of what we've already seen regarding, okay, JS and DHD and all of them legends and great, but let's bring to the public eye these people like you, like Roam Surfboards, like they did with album, like Donald Brink comes to mind.
right.
There's so many guys that are fascinating, that are making and designing beautiful surfboards. That'd be fun if one of them was just like stab in the dark rando, where we get like, you know, where we get these guys such as yourself, and there are so many of them.
I would be honored to do something like that. I think that there's always the excitement for the original stab in the dark, not the electric step surfboard, whatever test.
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever.
Electric acid surfboard test.
Yeah,
Those
yeah,
one's like alt designs and one's high
yeah.
performance.
The high performance shortboard with like when Taj did it. I mean, that's one of the all time greats, and it's like I'll always watch that. I think that never needs to go away. But I really think they need to like what they did with Rasta. The last one was sick. I
Yeah,
thought, you know what I
yeah,
mean? It would be
yeah.
even cooler if they did one with even more underground guys. You know what I mean? And their design and
Well,
with
that's what I'm saying. That's
and
what I'm
then
saying.
they have to have the right, so to speak, surfer, the right mind frame. Rasta was great, right? But
I
you
think
know,
Machado would be good if they got underground guys like you and had you all build Machado aboard, because you need a great communicator. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
no, I think that's exactly what you're saying. You have to have the right surfer to be open minded enough to like really think about what he's riding and articulate what he's feeling. And that's important. And I think watching the one that Rasta did, Dave Rastovich, he was really good at articulating what he felt. You know what I mean? Like he nitpicked that thing and he didn't have anything bad to say, but it was just like, whoa, this is not, and that guy, he doesn't ride, what we would call a normal board, even close. Like none of my boards are probably even ride like his. But to have a guy like that, like Ryan Lovelace, did he win or he won, right?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
believe he did.
mean, that guy makes some crazy, but he's got some great guys that ride his boards, and what validation for him to have a guy like Dave Rastovich do that. But it would be
Yeah,
really cool to have a guy like Machado and all, like it'd be cool to have a San Diego edition of stat electric acid test. That would be sick.
Regional, a regional
Regional,
edition.
yeah, yeah, county,
That
you
would
know,
be pretty cool.
that would be really cool.
And we've got so many great surfboard makers here in San Diego. We're really lucky, and we're lucky to have you amongst them. Let me ask you this. Um, looks like you got PU behind you.
Yeah,
Are you experimenting with anything else? Because I'm kind of a fan of XTR, the extruded closed cell. What are your thoughts on other foams?
I like EPS a lot. Just a stringer epoxy layup. I like that a lot, especially
What
for the.
about the chatter? What about the
I don't, I used to worry about that, and with the stringer and glassing, and at first when I was writing, so I'm going to take you back, like when who really got me to understand the nuances of surfboard design was Dan Hans of Vulcan Surfboards.
yeah,
Absolutely, he was a mastermind at Shape 3D and that kind of stuff, and I know he was like, whoa, dude. Marcio was the guy that pushed me to do it myself. And he's like, it's all cool that to be in the Bay, that's all nostalgic and romantic. But if you really want to make any money, if you really want to push yourself in design, you need to learn do it on a computer. You're really going to find out what works and what doesn't. And then, long story short, I started working with Dane Hans, and I got to give a lot of credit to him from what I do and construction and stuff like that, because he really, just by working with them for like 4 or 5 years, really taught me a lot. Just like being fly on the wall, or he's like, fix this file or scan this file. This file's all jacked up, and I'm not going to name names, but he's like, oh yeah, and like, whoa. Then I started to see how bad people's, I don't want to say this, how fucking shitty people's files were, and then like we'd have to clean them up, and here's your file, sir. Now you can cut it, carry on. So going back to construction, he was always he worked at XTR, back then. And I mean, he just left XTR and he started his own gig. So I had some good XTR foam, and I saw Shay Yates owns XTR now.
yeah,
I surfed with him at DMJ's last summer. I reached out to him, but I never got a call back. I wanted to do a couple of those because I really like them, but I really like the just standard epoxy stringer, like a 3/32 or an 1/8" stringer. And I used to like them really heavy, like 6'4" deck, 6 bottom. Try to make as heavy as I can to reduce the chatter that you're talking about. Now I'm to the point where who's laminating my boards, HSD, DJ, and Michael Barron. I get them so light, like feather light, 4 bottom, 4 deck. Like I want it as light as possible. Like, I mean, the thing is like, it's like a feather.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
nuts. But what I get out of it is so much squirt and speed, and they're so responsive. And like yesterday, I surfed in the morning and I surfed in the afternoon, and there was definitely the wave faces weren't all smooth, but I think if you ride them enough, you start getting used to it. Now, if it's super offshore, that's a whole different story. When you're
yeah,
talking onshore and no wind, I feel like that is such a good. It's like once you get into that feeling, it's going to be hard to get you off it. And I do have a lot of polys. Like most of what I do are polys, but then I glass them super light, 4, 4, 4. Everything's 4.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but then I've done some carbons. I got a carbon over here, and Justin Kearney's. I knew him before he had Dark Arts, and he was doing some for Stu. And I connected him years ago before he started Dark Arts with Marcio because he was getting into epoxy. So I had one of his first. I don't know if it was one of his first, but before he started Dark Arts, when he's
Yeah.
putting him out of his Connex box in Hamul, and I liked them, but I couldn't handle how light they were back then. Now
Yeah.
I totally can. It's a trip. It's like I
Yeah.
think it's like an evolution of you as a surfer. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And also I think everything comes full circle. It's like for a while I could not stand epoxies, and now I like them again. And so I don't know. I feel
Yeah.
like everybody. Okay, for me, everybody's still trying to make it feel like a thruster. Everybody's still trying to make it feel like a poly. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
we're all, it's like the poly's the standard, and every board is, whether weight wise or whatever, it's still trying to make it feel like poly. So why don't we just do it the original way? You know what I mean? Why don't we just all
Yeah.
run light polys? I don't know. It's
Yeah.
a trip, right?
Yeah. It is. It's interesting. And it's a great time to be where we're at. There's so much to choose from. It's ridiculous. And I mean, there's even, I've got an agave surfboard now. And I'm riding, believe it or not, I'm running an EPS longboard, which is
Right, you're
surprises
right.
me. Huh?
Riding longboards now. Remember last time we were like,
Well, I, it's funny, which actually, this brings me to another thing, which is why aren't you foiling? You're the perfect guy to foil. You're an expert level surfer. You just turned 50. You're about to turn
not
50.
yet, September.
Okay, well, let's just call it 50. You're in your
All
50th
right,
year.
call spades.
And you you my friend need to open up your mind to the foil, and it's not going to take away any of our trips to Tavarua, any of our trips to wherever we go. We're still going to surf when the
All right,
waves are
let's
good,
go.
but when it's crap, and you mentioned a crappy summer we had last year, was the best summer ever
Really?
for foiling.
Really?
Yeah,
I
it was
think I
so
saw
good.
you guys up at the spot. There was like, you got a crew, huh?
Yeah, yeah,
There's
there's
like
a
10
crew.
or 12 of you guys.
Everyone's happy, everyone's friendly, nobody cares. We're
There's
all
a
we're all
couple,
going on the same wave and ripping around each other.
saw a couple guys in bucket hats. I didn't know if that was you or
That would be
not.
me. By the way, I was paddling around Del Mar Beach Break a couple weeks ago, and I paddled right past you. You and I like look at each other. I'm like, "Hey," you're just like
No,
head down, just
I don't
give me
think
the
I was.
full downstream vibe. Just
Oh, please. That's such BS. Actually, I wasn't even out that day.
I thought it was you. I was like, I
Oh,
think I
no, maybe it was because I saw you after we served. Did I honk
maybe.
at you
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you did. But
today? But
that
I
was a
think you were more south than me.
that was a different day. I saw somebody who had a hood on. I'm like, I think that's Nick. And I paddled up to you, and you just went, and I went, we went together, and we paddled right past each
Maybe you're pretty much in the zone too when you surf. Don't
other. Yeah.
don't don't gotta lie.
No, you're right. You're right.
No, the foiling thing, I'm down. Dude, to be honest, I'm afraid to get hurt nowadays. It's weird.
Yeah.
But
No,
then,
I get that.
I just got back from skiing, and and I don't hold back there, and so
Yeah. Look, if people were getting hurt, we wouldn't be doing it. You know what I mean? Like I'm softer than you are. I'm the first one to be that's concerned about getting hurt cost wise. It's, lifestyle wise, and nobody wants that. But anyway, it's a ton of fun. It's there for you. I'm not going to evangelize anymore on it, but you're the perfect guy for it. You are the
all right,
perfect guy.
sold.
Yeah.
After this, you gotta send me like all the deets on how I get started in the foiling 101.
You got to, the number one thing is between the ears, you have to commit. You have to understand that you're going to go back to being a beginner. You're
Dude.
going to eat shit constantly. Everyone's going to be better than you. All of that stuff, you got to compartmentalize all that BS and just accept the humility. And then you're going to get to a place where you're like, oh my God, why didn't I do this earlier? This is the greatest way to spend a session on the crappiest 2 foot wave ever.
Yeah, I'm down.
Anyway, enough from me. Look, Nick, we've said a lot. What else can we talk about here? Well, how do people get a hold of you, man? I mean, there's 4 or 5 boards behind you that I've been eyeballing that I want to own. How do we get a hold of Nick Ferreira and Roam Surfboard so we can order a surf?
Instagram. I mean, my website is, dude. Websites and me don't mix. There's some things people shouldn't do, and I need to get that done. But the gram, DM, and then shoot me an email through info@roamsurfboards.com. And then you can come down here. We got a space in Toronto Valley, and we can design your next board and tell me what you want, and I'll try to put a board that you can throw a leg over and go super fast, and stuff like that. But
Yeah, I love that. Speed is our friend.
yeah, speed is, especially as you get older, right?
It is.
I don't want to turn anymore. I just want to go fast,
I
Scott.
mean, all we're doing is bottom turns. Give me the
Right?
speed. I'll deal with the spontaneous combustion on the shoulder later. But
Right?
yeah.
Totally.
All right, Nick. Thank you, buddy. Thanks for being on the Boardroom podcast. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you, Scott, and we'll see you in the lineup, bud.
Okay, man. See ya.
All right, have a good one.